Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English in Advance. I am your host, Jessica, and I am so happy you are here with me today. This is a safe space where we do not just learn grammar or vocabulary lists, but we actually learn how to feel comfortable and confident when we speak English. Today, we are going to talk about something that affects almost every single language learner I have ever met. In fact, it affects native speakers too. We are going to talk about the overthinking mind. If you have ever felt your heart beating fast before you answer a question, or if you have ever translated a sentence in your head 5 times before you finally speak it, this episode is for you. We are going to learn how to speak calmly, how to speak clearly, and how to quiet that busy noise in our heads so that your true English ability can shine through. Let us start by taking a deep breath together. I want you to physically relax your shoulders right now as you listen to my voice. When we overthink, our bodies get tight, and when our bodies are tight, our English feels tight. You might know this feeling well. You are in a conversation, perhaps with a colleague or a friend, and they ask you a question. Suddenly, your brain starts working at 1,000 miles per hour. You are checking your grammar. You are looking for the perfect word. You are worrying about your pronunciation. By the time you are ready to speak, the moment has passed, or you feel so nervous that you stumble over your words. This is what we call the paralysis of analysis. You are analyzing so much that you become paralyzed and cannot move forward. Today I want to teach you that fluency is not about being perfect. Fluency is about the flow. Think of a river. A river does not stop to check if every rock is in the perfect place. It just flows around them. That is how I want you to speak English today. One of the biggest reasons we overthink is that we are trying to edit our speech before we even say it. We have an internal editor in our brains that says, no, that is the wrong tense, or wait, is that the right preposition? This internal editor is useful when you are writing an email, but it is the enemy of speaking. To speak calmly, we need to learn to turn the volume down on that internal editor. A great way to do this is to embrace simplicity. Often, overthinkers try to say complex things. You have a sophisticated thought in your native language, and you want to translate that exact complex thought into English. But when you get stuck looking for high-level words, you panic. The secret to speaking clearly is to simplify. If you cannot find the complex word, use a simple one. If you cannot make a long sentence, make 2 short ones. Let's practice this mindset shift right now. Imagine you want to describe a complex project you are working on. In your head, you might want to say something like, I am currently overwhelmed by the magnitude of the tasks required for the completion of this deadline. That is a heavy sentence. An overthinker will get stuck on the word magnitude or completion. Instead, I want you to breathe and break it down. You can simply say, I have a lot of work to do. The project is big. I need to finish it soon. Listen to how clear that sounds. I have a lot of work to do. The project is big. I need to finish it soon. There is power in short sentences. Short sentences are punchy. They are clear. And most importantly, they give your brain a break. When you speak in short sentences, you get to pause more often, which gives you time to think about the next thing you want to say. This brings me to our next important technique for the overthinking mind, which is the power of the pause. Many learners are terrified of silence. You feel that if you stop talking for even 1 second, the other person will think you do not know the answer or that your English is bad. But actually, Native speakers pause all the time. Silence is not your enemy. Silence is a tool. When you rush to fill the silence, you often say things you do not mean, or you make mistakes because your mouth is moving faster than your brain. I want you to get comfortable with pausing. To help you with this, we are going to learn some filler phrases. These are magical phrases that buy you time. They tell the listener that you are still thinking and that you are going to speak soon, so they should wait for you. Instead of saying or which can sound uncertain, you can use phrases like, let me see, or that is an interesting question. Let's try that together. I want you to repeat after me. That is an interesting question. Let me think about that for a second. Did you feel how long that took? That gave you about 3 or 4 seconds of thinking time. And you sounded very professional and calm while you said it. Let's try another one. If someone asks you something and your mind goes blank, do not panic. Just say, well, let me gather my thoughts. Repeat that with me. Well, let me gather my thoughts. These phrases act like a bridge. They connect the question to your answer, and they keep you calm because you know you have something ready to say while your brain searches for the real answer. Now let's talk about clarity. Speaking clearly is often more about pace than it is about pronunciation. When we are nervous, we tend to speed up. We think that if we speak fast, we sound fluent. But actually, speaking fast often makes us sound anxious. It makes us mumble. When you slow down, you give your listener a gift. You make it easy for them to understand you. And you give yourself a gift too because you have more time to form your sounds. I want you to imagine that you are speaking in slow motion today. Not so slow that it is boring, but slow enough that you can hear the end of every word. Many learners swallow the ends of their words. They say work instead of worked or go instead of goes. When you overthink, you rush. When you are calm, you finish your words. Let's practice this with a simple sentence. I want you to say, I really enjoyed the meeting we had yesterday. If you are rushing, it might sound like I really enjoy meet yester. That is hard to understand. Now, slow it down. Focus on the final sounds. I really enjoyed the meeting we had yesterday. Do you hear the D at the end of enjoyed? Do you hear the full word yesterday? Speaking clearly helps you feel in control, and when you feel in control, your anxiety goes down. It is a beautiful cycle. You slow down, you speak clearly, you feel confident, so you relax, and then you speak even better. Another trigger for overthinking is the fear of being judged. You might think, what if I use the wrong preposition? What if I use the wrong tense? Let me tell you a secret. Most people are not listening to your grammar. They are listening to your message. They want to connect with you. They want to know what you think and how you feel. They are not grading you like a teacher. When you are in a conversation, try to shift your focus. Instead of focusing on yourself and your performance, focus on the other person. Listen to what they are saying. Look at their eyes. Be curious about their story. When you focus on connecting rather than performing, the pressure disappears. You stop analyzing your own head and start participating in the real world. Let's try a visualization exercise to help with this. I want you to imagine you are holding a ball. This ball represents the conversation. When you are speaking, you are holding the ball. But you do not have to hold it forever. Your only job is to gently toss the ball to the other person. You can do this by asking a question. Questions are the best friend of the overthinker. If you feel stuck, or if you feel you have been talking too long, just ask a question. You can say, what do you think? Or how about you? This takes the spotlight off of you and puts it on them. It gives you a chance to breathe and listen. Repeat these simple questions with me. What do you think? How about you? Have you experienced this? By using these questions, you turn a monologue into a dialogue, and a dialogue is much easier to handle. Now let's address the physical aspect of speaking calmly. Sometimes our minds are racing because our breathing is shallow. If you are breathing only into the top of your chest, your body signals to your brain that you are in danger. This is the fight or flight response. But you are not in danger. You are just speaking English. So we need to trick the body into relaxing. We do this by breathing into the stomach. Before you enter a meeting or start a conversation, take a moment to put your hand on your stomach. Inhale deeply so your hand moves out. Exhale slowly so your hand moves in. Let's do it once now. Inhale, exhale. Doing this just 3 times can reset your nervous system. When your body is calm, your voice becomes deeper and more resonant. Anxious voices tend to be high and tight. Calm voices are low and open. When you speak with a calm voice, you actually trick your brain into thinking you are confident, even if you do not feel it yet. It is the fake it until you make it strategy, and it works wonderfully. We also need to talk about vocabulary. Many B1 and B2 learners feel they need to use academic or fancy words to sound intelligent. This causes a lot of overthinking because you are constantly searching your memory for that one difficult word you learned last week. But usually the simple word is better. Think of the best public speakers in the world. They use simple language. They use clear, strong verbs. They do not use complicated jargon unless they have to. So give yourself permission to use the vocabulary you already know well. You do not need to impress anyone with big words. You impress people with clear ideas. For example, instead of trying to say, I wish to utilize this opportunity to express my gratitude, which is very complex and formal. You can simply say, I want to take a moment to say thank you. The second version is clearer, stronger, and much more human. It connects better. Let's practice rephrasing complex thoughts into simple, calm English. Imagine you want to say, the unexpected weather conditions necessitated a cancellation of our outdoor plans. That is a mouthful. An overthinker would get stuck on necessitated. How can we say this simply? We can say, the weather was bad, so we canceled our plans. Or, we could not go outside because of the rain. See how easy that is? It is not baby English. It is effective English. It is the English of a confident speaker who knows what they want to say. I encourage you to practice this in your daily life. When you have a thought, ask yourself, how can I say this in the simplest way possible? Another technique for the overthinking mind is to accept mistakes. This is hard, I know. We want to be perfect, but perfection is impossible. Even I make mistakes. Even native speakers make grammar slips. The difference is that a confident speaker does not let a mistake stop them. If you make a mistake, you have 2 choices. You can freeze and apologize and feel terrible, which disrupts the conversation. Or you can just correct yourself quickly and keep going, or even ignore it if it was small. If you say, he go to the store, instead of he goes and you realize it, just say, he goes to the store and keep talking. Do not make a big drama out of it. If you apologize profusely, saying, oh, I am so sorry, my English is terrible, you actually make the other person feel uncomfortable. They have to stop and comfort you. But if you just keep flowing, they probably won't even remember the mistake. Your mistake does not define your intelligence. It just means you are learning. Let's go deeper into the structure of your answers. Sometimes we overthink because we do not know how to organize our thoughts. We start talking, and we ramble, and then we get lost, and then we panic. Having a simple structure can save you. I love the structure of point, reason, example. This is very useful for B1 and B2 learners. First, state your point. Second, give one reason. Third, give one example. Stop. That is it. You do not need to say more. Let's look at how this works. Imagine someone asks, "Do you like working from home?" Step 1. Point is yes, I prefer working from home. Step 2. Reason is, it saves me a lot of time because I do not have to commute. Step 3. Example is, for instance, I save 2 hours every day that I can use for exercise or reading. That is a perfect answer. It is complete, it is structured, and because you have a map in your head, you do not need to overthink where you are going. You know exactly when to stop. Let's try another one. The question is, what is your favorite season? Point is, my favorite season is autumn. Reason is, I love the cool weather and the beautiful colors of the leaves. Example is, last year I went hiking in the mountains in October, and it was magical. Try to use this point, reason, example, structure the next time you're in a conversation. It gives your brain a safe path to follow. I also want to talk about the concept of good enough. Overthinkers often have an all-or-nothing mindset. Either my English is perfect or it is a failure. But language is a spectrum. There is a huge middle ground called good enough. Good enough means you communicated your message. Good enough means you ordered your coffee and got what you wanted. Good enough means you had a nice chat with a friend, even if you forgot a word. We need to celebrate good enough. Every time you speak, it is a victory. You are doing something incredibly difficult, communicating in a second language. Be kind to yourself. Speak to yourself like you would speak to a good friend. You would never tell a friend, "You sounded stupid," or "Why did you make that mistake?" You would tell them, "Great job for trying," or "You explained that really well." Be your own cheerleader. Let's focus on listening for a moment. Sometimes overthinking comes from not listening well because we are too busy rehearsing our answer. When you are truly listening, you cannot overthink. Your brain is occupied with understanding the other person. This is called active listening. When you listen actively, you pick up on the words the other person is using, and you can use them back. This is a great trick. If they say, "I felt really frustrated with the delay," you can use the word frustrated in your answer. You can say, "I understand why you were frustrated." You do not have to search for a new word. You can just borrow theirs. This makes the conversation feel very connected and saves you mental energy. There is also a physical trick involving your eyes. When we are overthinking and accessing our memory, we tend to look up or look away. This disconnects us from the listener. Try to maintain soft eye contact. You do not have to stare, but keep your eyes on the person. This grounds you in the present moment. It reminds you that you are just two humans having a chat. If looking at the eyes is too intense, look at their mouth or the bridge of their nose. Staying visually connected helps keep your brain in the room rather than floating away into your worries. Now, we are going to take these tools and apply them to the specific situations that cause the most anxiety for English learners. We are going to walk through the fire of high-pressure scenarios, like job interviews, phone calls, and group dinners, and we are going to learn how to navigate them with grace and a quiet mind. Let's begin by addressing one of the most terrifying situations for an overthinker, which is the group conversation. When you are talking one-on-one, it is easier. You have the person's full attention. But in a group, the conversation moves fast. People interrupt each other. They use slang. They laugh at jokes you might not understand. For an overthinking mind, a group conversation feels like a battlefield. You sit there, waiting for the perfect moment to jump in, but every time you think of something to say, the topic changes. Then you start beating yourself up, thinking you are too quiet or that you are invisible. This spiral is very common. The key to surviving group conversations is to lower your expectations of participation. You do not need to be the life of the party. You do not need to lead the discussion. Your goal in a group is simply to be present. A great technique for groups is what I call the echo technique. If you cannot think of a completely new original idea to add, you can simply validate or echo what someone else just said. This counts as speaking. It counts as participation. But it requires very little processing power. For example, if someone says, "I found the movie really confusing," you can jump in and simply say, "I agree. The plot was very complicated." You are essentially repeating their idea in your own words. This shows you are listening. It makes the other person feel good because you agreed with them, and it gets your voice into the room without the pressure of inventing a new topic. Let's practice a few of these echo phrases. "I was thinking the exact same thing." That is a really good point. I totally agree with you on that. These are safety nets. They allow you to participate without the risk of overthinking a complex argument. Another aspect of group dynamics is the fear of interrupting. Overthinkers are usually very polite. We do not want to be rude, so we wait for a silence that never comes. In English culture, especially in the US and UK, interrupting is not always rude if it is done correctly. It is often a sign of enthusiasm. If you wait for a perfect silence, you will wait forever. You need to learn how to signal that you want to speak. You can do this with your body language first. Lean forward, open your mouth slightly, put your hand up a little bit, and then use an entry phrase. An entry phrase is a polite way to cut in. You can say, "Can I just add something here?" Or, "Speaking of that." Repeat these with me. "Can I just add something here?" Speaking of that, these phrases act like a horn on a car. They tell people you are coming through. Once you say the phrase, people will usually stop and look at you. Do not let that intimidate you. That is your green light. Now let us move to another high-stress scenario, the telephone. The phone is difficult because you cannot see the person's face. You cannot see their lips moving or their facial expressions. You lose 70% of the communication clues. For an overthinker, the phone is a nightmare of what if I don't understand? Or what if the connection is bad? The secret to handling phone calls is to take control of the environment immediately. If you cannot hear well, do not pretend you can. Do not just say, "Yes, yes," and hope for the best. That leads to disaster. Be brave enough to stop the conversation and adjust the conditions. You can say, "I am sorry, the line is a bit bad. Could you repeat that? Or could you speak a little louder, please?" By asserting your needs, you stop the panic. You are setting the rules for the call. Also on the phone, we often fear the awkward silence even more than in person. If there is silence in person, you can smile or nod. On the phone, silence feels like a dropped call. This compels overthinkers to babble and talk too much. I want you to practice being comfortable with the dead air. If the other person stops talking, wait, count to 3 in your head. Maybe they are just thinking. Maybe they are taking notes. You do not need to fill every second with noise. If you need to think, verbalize it. Say, I am just looking at my notes. One moment, please. This narrates your silence so the other person knows you are still there, which calms your anxiety about them hanging up or thinking you are confused. Let's discuss the concept of translation lag. This is a huge source of overthinking. You hear English, your brain translates it to your native language, you formulate an answer in your native language, and then you translate it back to English. This process is exhausting and slow. It creates a lag that makes you feel stupid. To break this cycle, we need to start thinking in English, even at a very basic level. I want you to start narrating your life in simple English. When you are making coffee, say in your head, I am making coffee. The water is hot. I am pouring the milk. Do not translate. Just look at the object and think the English word. If you look at a window, think window, not the word in your native language. This direct connection between the object and the English word bypasses the translation center of your brain. The more you do this with simple things, the easier it becomes with complex, abstract concepts. It is like training a muscle. We also need to address the spotlight effect. This is a psychological phenomenon where we believe everyone is paying much more attention to us than they actually are. You think everyone is analyzing your grammar. You think everyone noticed that you used in instead of on. The truth is, people are mostly thinking about themselves. They are thinking about their own lunch, their own deadline, or what they are going to say next. They are not scrutinizing your English. Realizing this is incredibly liberating. You are not the main character in their movie. You are just a supporting character. This means you have the freedom to be imperfect. You can relax. Even if you make a massive mistake, most people will forget it within 10 minutes. Let us talk about a specific grammar point that causes overthinking. The perfect tenses. I see so many students freeze because they do not know if they should say I went or I have gone. They stop speaking to calculate the timeline in their head. Here is my advice for the overthinker. When in doubt, use the simple past. I went, I saw, I did. In 99% of conversations, the simple past is perfectly understood. It might not be technically precise in every nuance, but it communicates the action. I have lost my keys and I lost my keys. Both tell me you do not have your keys. Do not let the search for the perfect grammar tense stop you from communicating the fact. Prioritize the fact over the form. Once you are comfortable speaking fluently in the simple past, then and only then can you start sprinkling in the present perfect. Build the house before you decorate the roof. Another tool for speaking calmly is the use of softeners. Overthinkers often worry about sounding too direct or rude. This worry makes them hesitate. Softeners are little words that make your sentences less rigid and more polite. Words like maybe, possibly, a little bit, or kind of. Instead of saying, that is wrong, which feels aggressive, you can say, that is actually a little bit different from what I thought. Softeners act like a cushion. They make you feel safer expressing your opinion because you are not committing 100% to a hard fact. They give you wiggle room. Practice adding these to your speech. It is kind of cold today. I am a little bit tired. Maybe we should try a different way. These words help the rhythm of your speech flow more naturally, giving it that native-like quality, without needing complex vocabulary. Now, let's go deeper into the physical sensation of speaking. Many people hold tension in their jaw and tongue. When you are nervous, your tongue actually pulls back in your mouth. This makes pronunciation harder, which leads to more anxiety. I want you to do a quick exercise with me. Open your mouth wide. Stretch your jaw. Now, let your tongue relax completely so it is touching the back of your bottom teeth. When you speak English, try to keep your jaw loose. A loose jaw allows the sound to resonate. If you are clenching your teeth, you are trapping the sound. Physically relaxing the articulators, the lips, the teeth, the tongue, signals to your brain that everything is okay. It is a biological feedback loop. Relax the body, relax the mind. Let's imagine you are in a job interview. The stakes are high. The overthinking is at its peak. The interviewer asks, "Tell me about a weakness you have." Your brain screams. You want to give the perfect answer. You start analyzing every possible weakness. Stop. Breathe. Remember the structure we talked about, point, reason, example. But also, remember honesty. The most impressive candidates are the ones who are authentic, not the ones who are robotic. It is okay to take a moment. In an interview, it is actually very powerful to say, "That is a great question. I want to give you a thoughtful answer, so let me think for a moment." This shows confidence. It shows you are not a robot. It shows you take the question seriously. Then give a simple answer. I sometimes struggle with delegating tasks because I like to ensure quality, but I am learning to trust my team more. Simple, clear, human. A major trap for overthinkers is the vocabulary trap. You learn a new word, a fancy word like exacerbate. You are desperate to use it. You enter a conversation waiting for the chance to use exacerbate. You stop listening to the other person because you are hunting for an opening for your new word. And when you finally use it, it might be slightly out of context and you feel awkward. My advice: let the vocabulary come to you. Do not force it. Trust that the words you have really mastered will appear when you need them. The words you only half know will cause you to stumble. Stick to your active vocabulary, the words you know 100%. Expand your passive vocabulary through reading and listening, but do not force those words into your speech until they feel natural. There is no shame in using make worse instead of exacerbate. Make worse is strong, clear English. Let's discuss the concept of shadowing as a cure for overthinking. Shadowing is a practice where you listen to a piece of audio and repeat it exactly as you hear it, almost at the same time. You mimic the speed, the emotion, the pauses, and the melody. Why does this help overthinkers? Because it turns off the analytical brain. You do not have time to analyze the grammar because you are too busy keeping up with the speaker. It forces you into a state of flow. It connects your ear directly to your mouth, bypassing the thinking brain. I recommend doing this for just 5 minutes a day. Pick a podcast host you like, maybe me, and shadow a small section. You will find that after shadowing, your own speaking feels more automatic. You stop translating and start feeling the rhythm of the language. We also need to talk about the plateau. Every learner hits a point where they feel they are not improving. For an overthinker, this is dangerous. You interpret the plateau as failure. You think, "I've been studying for years. Why do I still make mistakes?" You start to analyze your study methods. You buy more books. You worry more. But the plateau is a normal part of the process. It is where your brain is consolidating information. It is like a computer installing updates. You cannot use the computer while it updates, but afterwards it runs better. When you feel stuck, do not push harder. Do not overthink it. Just maintain your exposure. Keep listening. Keep reading. Trust the process. The breakthrough will come, often when you least expect it, usually when you are relaxed and not trying so hard. Let's talk about the role of perfectionism in pronunciation. Many learners obsess over having a perfect British or American accent. They overthink every vowel sound. They get tight and unnatural. The goal is not to sound like you were born in London or New York. The goal is intelligibility. Can people understand you? If the answer is yes, you have succeeded. Your accent is part of your identity. It tells the story of who you are and where you come from. Do not try to scrub it away. In fact, fighting your accent often leads to hypercorrection, where you pronounce things so strangely because you are trying too hard that it becomes harder to understand. Relax into your own voice. Speak clearly, finish your words, but do not hate your natural sound. Your natural sound is unique and lovely. Here is a practical exercise for the next time you have to give a presentation or a speech. Overthinkers usually write out a full script. They write every single word. Then, when they speak, they try to read the script in their head. If they miss one word, they panic. This is a trap. Instead of a script, use bullet points. Only write down the key ideas. This forces you to form the sentences in the moment. It feels scary, I know, but it actually results in more natural speech. If you forget a specific word, you can just use a different one because you are not tied to a script. You are tied to the idea, and ideas are flexible. Scripts are rigid. Be flexible. Let us explore the concept of repair strategies. Even the best speakers get confused. You might start a sentence and realize you do not know how to finish it. You paint yourself into a corner. An overthinker will freeze and feel shame. A calm speaker will use a repair strategy. You can stop and say, "Actually, let me say that differently," or "What I mean is," or simply, "I lost my train of thought. Let me start again." These are perfectly acceptable things to say. They show you are monitoring your speech and you care about clarity. Admitting you are lost is better than continuing down a confusing path. It resets the conversation. Now, I want to invite you into the quietest, most private room of all. The room inside your own head where you talk to yourself. This is where the real battle for fluency is won or lost. It is not in the classroom. It is in your internal monologue. Today, we are going to rewrite that monologue. We are going to turn your inner critic into your inner coach, and we are going to explore how music, rhythm, and identity can unlock a level of freedom you did not know was possible. Let's start with a trap that almost every overthinker falls into, and that is the trap of comparison. In the age of social media, this has become a toxic habit. You scroll through Instagram or YouTube, and you see other English learners who seem perfect. They speak fast, they use slang, they have perfect accents, and immediately your brain says, "I am not good enough. Look at them. I will never be like that." This comparison is the thief of joy. It paralyzes you. But I want you to remember something very important. You are comparing your behind the scenes with their highlight reel. You do not see the 50 takes they recorded before they posted that video. You do not see the script they are reading. You do not see their years of struggle. You only see the polished result. To break the comparison cycle, you need to change your reference point. Instead of comparing yourself to others, compare yourself to your past self. This is the only comparison that matters. Think about where you were 1 year ago. Could you understand a podcast like this 1 year ago? Maybe not. Could you order food in a restaurant 5 years ago? Probably not. When you track your own progress, you see growth. When you track others, you see a gap. I want you to start a victory log. It sounds simple, but it is powerful. Every week, write down one thing you did in English that was a success. It could be, I understood a joke in a movie, or I sent an email without using a translator. Over time, this log becomes evidence. It becomes proof that you are moving forward. When the overthinking mind says you are stuck, you can open your victory log and say, no, look at the evidence. I am growing. Now, let's talk about the rhythm of English and how it can soothe an anxious brain. English is a stress-timed language. This means the rhythm comes from the stressed syllables, not the number of syllables. It has a beat, like music, da-da-da-da. Many overthinkers try to pronounce every single word with equal weight. They say, I want to go to the store. This sounds robotic, and more importantly, it requires too much energy. It is exhausting. When you learn to relax into the rhythm, you can swallow the unimportant words. Words like to, at, for, and the are usually reduced. They become tiny sounds. I want to go to the store. Notice how wanna and to thee are very quick. Focusing on the rhythm rather than the individual words is a great distraction for the overthinking mind. It is like dancing. When you dance, you do not look at your feet, you feel the beat. I want you to try humming sentences. Before you say a complex sentence, hum the melody. If you want to say, I would like to make a reservation, hum it first, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-tee, and find the music. When you speak with music, you flow. You stop getting stuck on the jagged edges of grammar, and you start sliding along the melody of the sentence. This makes you sound more fluent, but it also physically relaxes your body because you are connecting to a natural human instinct, rhythm. This brings us to a slightly scary but transformative practice, recording your own voice. I know. You hate the sound of your voice. Everyone does. Even I do sometimes. But for an overthinker, the fear of your own voice is a monster you must face. When you avoid hearing yourself, you build up a fantasy of how bad you are. You imagine you sound terrible. Usually, the reality is much better than your imagination. I want you to record yourself speaking freely for 1 minute. Then, wait a few hours. Then, listen to it. But here is the rule. Listen as a kind teacher, not a cruel judge. Listen for what you did right. Say to yourself, hey, that sentence was actually clear, or I used a good pause there. We call this the positive audit. Most learners do a negative audit. They only listen for mistakes. Oh, I missed an S. Oh, that vowel was wrong. This destroys confidence. I want you to hunt for your successes. When you hear yourself communicating, even imperfectly, you realize that you are understandable. The monster shrinks. You realize, I am not a disaster. I am just a person learning a language. If you do this regularly, your voice becomes familiar to you. It stops being a source of shame and starts being just a tool you use. Familiarity breeds comfort. Let us discuss the shift in identity. Overthinkers often wear the label English student or English learner. This label implies that you are not ready yet. It implies that you are in a state of preparation, and one day in the future, you will be ready. I want you to rip that label off. Put on a new label, English speaker. An English speaker is not someone who is perfect. An English speaker is simply someone who uses English to communicate. If you say, hello, you are an English speaker. If you read a menu, you are an English speaker. This identity shift changes your psychology. A student asks permission, a speaker takes action. A student is afraid of bad grades. A speaker focuses on the message. Start telling yourself, I am a bilingual person. Even if your second language is not perfect, you are bilingual. You have access to two worlds. That is a superpower. Walk into a room with the posture of a bilingual person, not the hunch of a frightened student. Fake it if you have to. Stand tall. Look people in the eye. Your body language dictates your brain chemistry. If you act like a speaker, your brain will start to believe it, and the overthinking will quiet down because speakers just speak. They do not obsess. We also need to address the fear of cultural rudeness. Many B1/B2 learners worry deeply about offending people. They think, if I am too direct, they will think I am rude. This worry causes them to add too many words, making sentences complicated and confusing. The truth is, English speakers, especially native ones, are generally very forgiving of learners. We know you are translating. We do not expect you to master the subtle nuances of aristocratic politeness. However, there are two magic words that solve 90% of these problems. Please and could you. You do not need complex conditional tenses to be polite. You do not need to say, I was wondering if it might be possible for you to. You can just say, could you help me, please? The word please does all the heavy lifting. It instantly softens any request. Another tip for politeness without overthinking is the smile and tone strategy. Your face and your voice carry more emotional meaning than your grammar. If you say a direct sentence like, give me the book, it sounds rude. But if you say, give me the book with a warm smile and a rising, friendly intonation, it is often accepted as a friendly request between friends. Do not over-rely on grammar to convey emotion. Use your human tools, your smile, your eyes, your warmth. People respond to warmth more than they respond to perfect syntax. Let's talk about the mental sandbox. Overthinkers often feel that every conversation is the Super Bowl or the World Cup final. It feels like high stakes. You need a place to play. A sandbox is a place where you can build castles and smash them, and it does not matter. You need a mental sandbox for English. This could be a specific time of day where you allow yourself to speak bad English. Maybe in the shower, maybe while driving. During this time, allow yourself to make up words. Allow yourself to speak with a terrible accent. Allow yourself to be silly. Playfulness is the antidote to anxiety. Children learn languages fast because they play. They do not have an ego about it. They make funny noises. Overthinkers are usually very serious. We need to inject some silliness back into the process. Try singing in English. Singing is amazing because the melody dictates the rhythm and the rhyme dictates the pronunciation. You cannot overthink the next word because the song keeps moving. It forces you to let go. Find a song you like, print the lyrics, and sing it loud. It loosens the jaw. It loosens the mind, and it reminds you that English can be joy, not just work. I want to explore the concept of active ignorance. This sounds strange, but stay with me. Overthinkers try to process every single input. They try to understand every word they hear, read every sign they see, and correct every mistake they make. This leads to sensory overload. To remain calm, you must actively choose what to ignore. When you are listening to a native speaker, Ignore the words you do not know. Focus only on the words you do know. Your brain is amazing at filling in the gaps. If you hear, "I went to the unknown word to buy some unknown word for dinner," you know they went to a shop to buy food. That is enough. Do not get stuck on the unknown words. Let them float by like clouds. Focus on the structure, the solid ground. This selective attention saves your mental energy for the most important task: connection. Let's go back to the idea of safe topics. Every speaker should have 3 or 4 topics that they are an expert in. These are your safety islands. Maybe you love cooking. Maybe you love football. Maybe you love your cat. Practice talking about these 3 topics until you can do it in your sleep. Learn the specific vocabulary for these topics. When you are in a conversation and you feel the panic rising, or you feel the topic getting too deep, try to steer the conversation toward one of your safety islands. "That reminds me of my cat." Or, "It is like when you are cooking." When you are on your safety island, you are the captain. You know the words. You feel confident. This gives you a break, a chance to recharge your confidence battery before swimming back out into deeper waters. We also need to discuss the influence of your physical environment on your mental state. If you study English in a messy, chaotic room, or if you always practice when you are stressed and rushing, your brain links English to stress. We want to link English to relaxation. I want you to create a comfort ritual around your English practice. Maybe make a cup of tea before you listen to a podcast. Maybe sit in your favorite soft chair. Maybe light a candle. It sounds small, but you are conditioning your brain like Pavlov's dog. You are teaching your brain. English time equals relaxation time. Over time, just sitting in that chair or smelling that tea will lower your heart rate and open your mind to the language. We are biological creatures. We need to hack our biology to help our psychology. Let's address the what-if monster. The overthinking mind is constantly playing the what-if game. What if I freeze? What if they laugh? What if I say a rude word by accident? This is a negative visualization. It is rehearsing failure. I want you to flip the script. Play the positive what-if game. What if I have a great conversation? What if I make them smile? What if I learn a cool new word? What if they compliment my English? Your brain cannot tell the difference between a vivid visualization and reality. If you visualize success, you prime your brain for success. If you visualize failure, you prime your brain for anxiety. Spend 2 minutes before a meeting just imagining it going well. Imagine the feeling of relief. Imagine the handshakes. Imagine the smiles. It changes your vibe when you walk into the room. Finally, in this section, I want to talk about the long game. Overthinking is often a result of impatience. We want to be perfect now. We are frustrated that we are not there yet. But language learning is a lifelong journey. There is no finish line. Even I am still learning new words and better ways to express myself. When you accept that this is a journey that will last for the rest of your life, the pressure of today disappears. Who cares if you made a mistake today? You have 40 more years to practice. One bad conversation is a drop in the ocean. Think of a garden. You do not plant a seed and then scream at it to grow faster. You water it, you give it sunlight, you wait. You are the gardener of your own mind. Stop screaming at the seeds. Just keep watering them with exposure. Keep giving them the sunlight of practice. And trust that the growth is happening, even if you cannot see it every single day. The bamboo tree grows underground for 5 years before it shoots up into the air. You are growing your roots right now. Now we are going to walk into some of the most difficult territory for the sensitive speaker. How to disagree without being rude, how to handle people who speak incredibly fast, and how to navigate the confusing world of humor and sarcasm. These are the areas where overthinkers usually retreat into silence. But today, we are going to learn how to stand our ground. Let's start with the challenge of disagreement. For an overthinker, disagreeing in a second language feels dangerous. You worry that if you say no or you are wrong, you will start a fight or lose a friend. You worry that you do not have the subtle vocabulary to be polite, so you just stay silent and agree, even when you do not want to. This is called the compliance trap. You become a yes person because it is safer, but your opinion matters. To escape this trap, we need to learn the art of soft disagreement. Soft disagreement is about using phrases that cushion the blow. Instead of saying, "I disagree," which is very hard and direct, try saying, "I see it a little differently." Listen to the difference. "I see it a little differently." It is gentle. It invites conversation rather than shutting it down. Another great phrase is, "I am not so sure about that." It is honest, but it is not aggressive. Let's practice these. "I see it a little differently." "I am not so sure about that." These phrases give you the power to stand up for your ideas without the fear of causing offense. They buy you safety. There is also a technique called the yes, but method, although I prefer to call it the yes, and method. When someone says something you disagree with, first validate their point. Say, "That is a good point, but have you considered," or "I understand why you think that, however." By starting with a positive validation, you lower the other person's defenses. You show them that you are listening, not just fighting. This makes the conversation feel like a collaboration, not a battle. And when the tension is low, your brain can work better. You do not freeze up. Now, let us tackle the nightmare of the fast speaker. We all know this person. They speak at 100 miles per hour. They slur their words. They use slang. When you meet a fast speaker, the overthinking brain goes into panic mode. You think, "I cannot understand anything. My English is terrible. I should just leave." But here is the truth. The problem is not your English. The problem is their speed. You have the right to control the speed of the conversation. You are 50% of the conversation. However, asking someone to slow down can feel embarrassing. It makes you feel like a beginner. So instead of saying "slow down," I want you to use the clarification technique. When they say a long, fast sentence, stop them and ask a specific question about one part of it. Say, "Wait, did you say you went to the station or the airport?" By asking a specific question, you force them to stop, think, and answer you clearly. Usually when they answer the specific question, they will naturally slow down. You are acting like a traffic controller. You are putting up a stop sign, not because you are weak, but because you want clarity. Another phrase for the fast speaker is, "I want to make sure I understand you correctly." This is a power phrase. It sounds professional. It sounds like you are really engaged. When you say, "I want to make sure I understand you correctly," the other person feels respected. They will usually repeat their point much more slowly and clearly because they want to be understood too. You do not have to apologize for your listening speed. You just have to manage the flow of information. Let's move on to humor and sarcasm. This is the final boss of language learning. Jokes are cultural. They rely on double meanings and cultural references. Overthinkers often feel stupid when everyone laughs and they do not understand why. You stand there with a frozen smile, wondering what you missed. First, please forgive yourself. Humor is the hardest thing to translate. It is not a measure of your intelligence. If you do not get the joke, it is okay. But how do you react? You have two choices. The first choice is the social smile. If the moment is casual and not important, just smile. You do not have to fake a big laugh. Just a small, warm smile is enough to show you are part of the group. The second choice, and the braver one, is curiosity. If you are with friends, you can say, "I think I missed the joke. Can you explain it?" This requires confidence. But usually, people love explaining jokes. It gives them a chance to tell the story again. And often, the explanation is a great English lesson for you. You learn a new idiom or a cultural fact. By asking, you turn a moment of exclusion into a moment of learning. Do not be afraid to be the one who asks. I want to talk about the concept of decision fatigue. Overthinkers suffer from this constantly. Every time you speak, you are making hundreds of micro decisions. Which word? Which tense? Which preposition? By the end of the day, your brain is fried. To combat this, we need to automate the mundane parts of your life. We need microscripts. These are set phrases for situations you face every day. For example, ordering coffee. Do not invent a new sentence every morning. Have one script. Can I get a large latte with oat milk, please? Memorize it. Say it the same way every time. It is boring, yes, but it saves your brain energy. Have a script for greeting your colleagues. Hi, how was your weekend? Have a script for leaving work. Have a great evening. See you tomorrow. When you automate these little interactions, you save your precious mental energy for the real conversations. You are reducing the cognitive load. You are being kind to your brain. Let's explore the foreigner advantage. We often look at being a non-native speaker as a disadvantage. We think we are behind. But there is a hidden advantage. When people know you are learning English, they are often more patient. They explain things more clearly. And most importantly, you are allowed to ask naive questions. You can ask, "Why do we do it this way?" or "What does that mean?" A native speaker might be afraid to ask because they should know the answer. You have a free pass to be curious. You can ask questions that cut through the confusion. Use this pass. Do not hide your learner status. Leverage it. Use it to gain clarity that even the native speakers might be missing. Now, I want to address the physical sensation of the block. Sometimes the anxiety is so high that your throat literally closes. You know the words, but you cannot push them out. This is a physical freeze response. When this happens, no amount of grammar study will help. You need to reset the body. I want you to try the grounding touch. When you feel the block coming, press your feet hard into the floor. Or squeeze your hands together tight and then release. Focus entirely on that physical sensation for 2 seconds. This pulls your attention out of the spinning thoughts in your head and down into your physical body. It breaks the loop. Once the loop is broken, you can take a breath and say one simple word, just one. Even if it is just well or so. Getting one sound out breaks the seal, and the rest will follow. Let us talk about input control. Overthinkers often listen to news or podcasts that are too difficult, and then they beat themselves up for not understanding. This destroys confidence. I want you to practice strategic regression. This means going back to material that is slightly below your level. Listen to a story for children. Read a book for teenagers. When you understand 90% or 100% of the content, your brain releases dopamine. You feel good. You feel competent. You need this feeling. You cannot build confidence on a foundation of constant struggle. Give yourself permission to do things that are too easy for you. It is not a step back. It is a shore up of your foundations. It reminds you that you can do this. We also need to redefine what fluency means to you. The dictionary definition of fluency is about flowing. It is not about accuracy. You can be fluent and full of mistakes. Think of a river. A river is fluent because it keeps moving. It might be muddy. It might have branches in it. But it does not stop. I want you to aim for muddy fluency. Give yourself permission to speak messy English as long as you keep moving. If you forget a word, describe it. The thing you use to open wine is a perfectly fine way to say corkscrew. It flows. It communicates. Do not stop the river just to clean the water. Let the water be muddy. The clarity will come with time, but the flow must come first. I want to suggest a practice called the daily summary. This is a private exercise to build your synthesis skills. At the end of the day, while you are brushing your teeth or washing the dishes, summarize your day in 3 sentences. Just 3. Today was busy. I finished the report. I am tired now. This forces you to prioritize information. Overthinkers want to include every detail. This exercise trains your brain to delete the unnecessary and focus on the core message. When you get good at this in private, you will start doing it in public. You will become a clearer, more concise speaker. Let's discuss the silence of others. Overthinkers often interpret the silence of the listener as judgment. You are speaking and the other person is just looking at you saying nothing. Your brain screams, "They are bored. They hate my English. I am making no sense." But usually they are just listening. They are processing. Or maybe they are just a quiet person. Do not project your insecurities onto their silence. Unless they look angry or confused, assume that silence means they are paying attention. Give them the space to listen. Do not rush to fill the silence with apologies. Let your words land. Finally, I want to talk about the endless journey. Many overthinkers are waiting for the day when they will be done. The day when they will never feel nervous again. The day when they will know every word. I have to tell you gently, that day will never come. Even native speakers feel nervous. Even native speakers forget words. The goal is not to eliminate the nervousness. The goal is to act despite it. The goal is to make friends with the nervousness. To say, "Hello, anxiety, I see you are here. I am going to speak anyway. You are building a new version of yourself. This version is not perfect, but it is brave. It is a version that can walk into a room, feel the heart beating fast, and still say, 'Hello, my name is.' This version is valuable. This version is worthy of being heard." As we close this deep dive, I want you to make a promise to yourself. Promise that you will be your own best friend on this journey. When you make a mistake, you will not insult yourself. You will say, "Good try." When you freeze, you will not give up. You will say, "Breathe." You are the only person who is with you 24 hours a day. Make sure that inner voice is a supportive one. You have all the tools now. You know how to breathe into your stomach. You know how to use filler phrases. You know how to structure your thoughts with point, reason, example. You know how to disagree softly and how to handle fast speakers. You have a toolbox full of strategies. Now, you just need to go out into the world and use them. Do not wait until you feel ready. You will never feel 100% ready. Speak before you are ready. Send the email before it is perfect. Make the call while your hands are shaking. That is how you grow. That is how you become the English speaker you dream of being. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to this comprehensive guide on English in advance. Thank you for your trust, your time, and your courage. It has been a privilege to speak to you. I believe in you. I believe in your voice. Now go out there and share it with the world. If this script has helped you, please subscribe, share it with a friend, and leave a comment telling me your biggest takeaway. I will be reading and I will be cheering for you. Until next time, take a deep breath, smile, and speak. Goodbye.